Have you ever wondered how the universe responds? Welcome to Tools to Manifest Your Dream Life with myself, Glennice Hughes. Thank you so much for being here. I am so incredibly grateful. This podcast is an invitation to my upcoming two-part series, How to Ask So the Universe Responds. Part 1 is on February 18th and part 2 is a week later on the 25th. And as always, if you can't join us live, everything is recorded and you will have access to the recordings. In this program, we will break the habit of waiting and show you how to clearly ask in the present moment and receive. Link is above or below. If you don't see a link, reach out and I will get it for you. And if you're listening to this via podcast, the link is in the show notes. Now, before I talk about how the universe responds, I want to share a story that will give you a really good example of what I'm talking about. As many of you know, hubby and I have been pet and house sitting for 3 years now, and we've had our stuff in storage in a storage unit near where we used to live. And we recently moved our stuff from storage into my parents' house in their basement suite. And I have been so excited about this. We have been dreaming about this for actually probably almost the whole time that we've had stuff in storage, because if you've never had stuff in storage, you maybe don't realize this, but you can really only access the stuff at the front of the storage unit. Now, we had a lot of stuff. We had a 10 by 10 storage unit and it was pretty much filled. No, it was filled. In fact, we rented a 15 by 15 U-Haul and it still didn't fit all the stuff. So I'm not sure how that happened, but we had a lot of stuff in there. And so because we couldn't get around everything, we could really only access stuff at the front. In fact, there was one time a couple of years ago where hubby needed paperwork. The paperwork he assumed he would never need, and it was way at the back. So him, his son, and his grandson spent hours pulling everything out so he could get to the paperwork. That is how full this storage unit was. And so the idea of us being able to get to all of our stuff, like all of our clothes and even sleep in our own bed. Oh my gosh. So we'd been dreaming about this for years. My parents had a renter in there and we knew once they moved out, we would move our stuff in. So that happened at the end of January. So excited. And yes, we have our own bed. Oh my gosh. Sleeping on our own bed after years of not. Talk about magical. And I have been joking for years about when I can move back home and my parents being my roomies and just having a lot of fun with this whole idea. And I thought I was okay with it until I went to the local grocery store and I bumped into a guy that I went to school with. And he said to me, "I heard you moved back in with your parents." And I was not okay. In fact, my reaction to him was embarrassing to say the least. "Oh no," I said, no, we haven't. We're still pet and house sitting. We just have our stuff there." Yeah. Embarrassing, because I could feel the resistance in that moment. I could feel how I was like, no, this isn't happening. This isn't the way it is. This is just a blip in time. Like, none of which I had even an idea that I had a problem with, that I had any story attached. Like, moving back into my parents' basement suite means I failed, means I'm doing something wrong, means like all these things. So as I do with usually any time I have some sort of a reaction, whether it's like this where there's resistance or upset or triggered or whatever it is, I will take some time to really look at it so that I don't go to the assumption of what it is, what it looks like in that moment. And so with this situation, it was a little bit harder to break down because on the surface, it was easy to think, oh, I don't want to be seen as living in my parents' basement at 53 years old. And that's really where I went to start with. But that's not what it was actually about. It was really about acknowledging from this present tense, like what I'm doing right now, Because although we had been dreaming about it for a few years and so excited to finally get there and sleep in our own bed and all of that, I still had framed it as like an in-between, as transitional, as not the full thing yet. Now, why? Because I still wanted to be perceived as on my way somewhere. And I know that might sound strange, and maybe it lands completely, so either way, it doesn't matter. But it's just this idea that it's always about the future. It's always about out there and not a lot about presence and what I'm choosing right now and where I am right now. And then I looked at it from all the different areas of my life and how I do that a lot. I live out there. Now, on one hand, I do a lot of work with my future self and all of that. So yes, there is a component of out there. But this is really different because it was such a limiting energy. It was like, I'm out there, I'm not here right now. And that's really difficult to engage with the universe from out there and not from presence. It's kind of like this energy of like, I'm almost there. So I'm out there trying to get there and I'm almost there. But the universe doesn't respond to almost. The universe responds to engagement. So what I really got to when I was looking at all of that resistance and discomfort was clarity. And I saw how we often do this, where we choose something, but then we dilute it, we explain it, we justify it, not because it's wrong, but because standing in present tense choice feels exposed. Asking from now, from present tense, from right this moment, means allowing yourself to be seen where you are, not where you're headed next. And that moment in that store, it showed me why so many of us stall. We are technically asking, but energetically we are cushioning the request. We're asking with disclaimers. This isn't permanent. This isn't the final version. I'm still figuring it out. That is not engagement. That's postponement. And the universe reacts accordingly. And that moment became the seed of what I'm teaching right now. Because once I stopped explaining and simply stood in my choice, in the present moment, without making things smaller, things actually shifted. Not dramatically, not overnight, but cleanly. Choices feel simpler. Asking feels more empowered. Momentum has returned, which brings me back to the 2-part program that I've got coming up. How to ask the universe so it responds. Not to teach people how to want things harder, but to help them stop asking from later. And the work is quite simple. Ask from where you are, let it be seen, stop softening the request, stop explaining your choices into the future. 2 group calls and 1 clear shift. And again, the link is above or below. If you're listening via the podcast, it's in the show notes. If you can't find it, reach out and I will get it for you. Thanks again for being here, and I look forward to chatting again soon.